All right, welcome everyone to Jimmy and Neil Have Problems, where we talk about problems, big problems, small problems, dumb problems. We talk about them all. Today's problem is maps don't tell you where you've been, and I guess specifically we're talking about like map software, right? Like Garmin or Apple Maps or Google Maps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I should add that to our examples here. That yeah, map software specifically.
I so I think it's interesting where analog maps, sort of do.
How
Um,
how so?
so for example, I went to Iceland and we got a physical map and we circled a lot of the places we wanted to go and ended up going. Um, and then I compare that to when I went to Chile and I just sort of, say, starred places. And then once I was done, I unstarred them.
Yeah.
So there's not that memory.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's hard to delineate versus like it's hard to say what exactly
Yeah.
the features in a digital map mean because I have a bunch of guides. Like I have LA
Mhm.
food, I have LA hikes, but it's a
Yep.
mix of places I have and haven't been, so it's
Mhm.
not necessarily um
Yeah. And then
something actually real. Yeah.
also digital um had like if there's a restaurant, Google Maps will say you visited this place on, March
Hmm.
3. So, you know, eh, that information is there.
Oh, that's an interesting point. So they're just not letting you access it.
Well, I think really the issue with this is, why I guess the why of this problem is, it'd be nice to have a very visual, like a heat map of the city you're in,
Exactly.
right? And then it's like, okay, I always drive down the same road and I always go to, these three restaurants. And I think the hope is that if you visually see that, this huge city, you
Yeah,
are
you
only in a very small area, and to nudge you in a direction to, explore more.
yeah. And I think I'm looking at some bright spots here. We've got Fog of World, which is an app
Mm-hmm.
that kind of everything's foggy and then it chisels out like clear spots where you've
Mm-hmm.
been. Problem, it doesn't take frequency into account, so you can see where you've been, but you can't see how frequently you've been there. Then kind of bright spot is Google sells your location data. They just don't display it very well. Although the
Mm-hmm.
Google Maps timeline starts to get at this, but
I
advertisers have this information.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the Google Maps timeline is actually pretty cool. Um, but that's more like big, bigger travel. It's not, oh, you're in LA,
Yeah.
you went to this restaurant. It's like you visited this many new cities and you know so like when I went to Chile, it was really fun because, I put big miles and, flying around the world. Um, so it's like in January you traveled this far and you visited this many new cities, and that was fun. But yeah, it gets kind of really boring if, you know like you went to one new city and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I went to the neighboring city, it was
Yeah.
boring.
I think you could use the Google Maps API or like some other kind of API to build the data yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's actually really interesting is you could even advertise to yourself via Google Ads. That would be kind of interesting is to basically figure out what cohort you're in on Google, so age, gender, location, interests, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
advertise specific to that person and influence your behavior online based on your
Mm-hmm.
location.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You could kind of automate nudges, you know?
Yeah.
I guess that's via Google AdWords. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so you could use ad targeting to target yourself. But I mean, you could use the Google Maps API to build this data yourself. You'd
Mhm.
have to the challenge. I think there's another challenge here is not digital versus analog. We have well, I don't know. I was gonna say like whether GPS is on and how much battery that sucks up, but like
Well,
I can look up. Everyone in my family knows where my iPhone is at all times. Hell, even my
what
AirPods have it.
I think one thing I'm curious about is sort of what that updating frequency is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, okay, they can figure out what restaurants you've been, but not what roads you take unless you are actively using the mapping software.
I know. I think you can tell exact location with at any time with
Uh,
whatever you call it, I maps with yeah. You can't see where people have been, but at any point in time I can see where people are specifically.
yeah, but like how frequent is that? Or like what is
If
they can
I
give you any like they will every time be saying that it's at a location, but it might be, say every 10 minutes it just updates.
I think it's more frequent than that. Like you can see real time people moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me that just seems like it just totally sap battery. And
I know. I don't
unless
know.
they're actively running a GPS application, like maps,
Yeah.
then it makes sense to be constantly updating. Um, but just in the background, yeah, that seems excessive to me.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is Fog of World talks about this. Like, so there's two modes in Fog of World. One that is like compute expensive, and the only difference is um, the compute expensive one, it tries to render. The rendering of the map is what takes up the most battery life
Mm. Mhm.
in real time, not actually the GPS tracking. So
Yeah.
I think that's
No.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
I guess my point of reference is Google Fit, um, where right now it's on a, there's a, a high and a low battery saver mode, um, where the only difference is the GPS tracking.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a little bit of a chicken and egg too, because you know, if given Fog of World renders and that's what's expensive to them, you look at a Maps app, it is constantly rendering and updating. It's just
Mhm.
like playing like a game,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, okay. But that's an interesting one. I guess that's kind of a question here is how much does GPS suck from battery life?
Yeah. And what is the refresh rate?
Yeah, what is the refresh rate of most location data on phones? That's gonna be different across iOS and Android, I assume.
Yep.
Um, I actually think Android probably pulls location data more because Google likes that data.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, okay. So let's look at some connections.
Yeah.
I don't, we already have maps, don't allow you to customize the route. Yeah, I don't know that we have anything
Um,
else that's
I'll pull
similar.
up the graph view as well.
Oh, I totally forget about this graph view. Yeah, so just for listeners, we have this ability to see which other problems are similar in terms of some strange math that I don't understand. Um, and it's not looking like there's anything really
No,
dynamite
this
here,
seems a little bit you know,
isolated.
yep, yep,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yep. So this is kind of our toe dip into natural language processing here. But all right, all that said, I think I am ready to vote on this one. I wish we had some better solutions here,
Yep. Yeah, I think,
but
you know, maybe, I guess I'll hold my assessment until after we rate, but
yeah. Okay. All right, let's get to rating. So motivation.
I am
I
not
th
motivated. I give a 0.
I agree. I think speed to failure.
I give a 1.
I'm gonna give it 2. I think this could be pretty quick actually to collect raw
Mhm.
data about this. Impacts.
I give a 0.
I'm gonna give it 1. I think it's good to know where you've been, and I think in previous times and places we had all these psychological markers to remind us, oh, I talked with Fred or John
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
Melissa, but it's in this like very socially detached, car centric time, it's hard to remember.
Mhm.
Many less markers.
Oh, connect this to the book of pattern language. Um, because they talk about like block size and I don't know if it's in block size, and when you have big blocks, like big street blocks, pedestrians take the same route, but if you decrease the size of the block, it allows pedestrians to take different routes.
Oh,
And they talk about that in 99% Invisible. I don't know if that is in this, in the Obsidian Vault. Nope.
yeah. Is that a book?
Yeah, it's the one I
Yeah, but
sent
it's
to you.
also a website, right?
It's a website,
There's
podcast, and then they have 99% Invisible, a city's guide. And it's
okay.
by Roman Mars.
A pretty dope name.
Yeah.
Roman Mars. That's pretty exceptional. That's very interesting. So this is a lot of phenomenon. I don't know how to spell that. Phenomenon. There we go. It's a lot of like I don't know what to call it, like design, like lifestyle, environmental design kind of
Yeah.
stuff that like maybe I feel like the real problem here is I don't remember where I've been. Not that maps don't tell me where I've been, it's that I don't remember where I've been.
Mhm.
And if our cities were designed in different ways, if they were more walkable, if there were more landmarks, if they were more unique, then
Yeah.
I think we would remember where we'd been, Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I guess, that reminds me, when I was a kid, we used to drive up from New Mexico to Michigan, and on our way
Oh,
there were always, there were some landmarks that you just knew, and it's, Cadillac Ranch in in
yeah.
Amarillo, and you know I knew there was always these two giant crosses we would go by, and you'd sort of measure this trip across country by, okay, now is when we get Chick-fil-A, and oh, there's the Cadillacs in the ground, and um
Yep.
yeah, so what if our cities were more like that?
Yeah, I think like for example, like I love where I live, it's really easy to walk to the downtown. And I know like 7 ways to walk to the downtown,
Mhm.
ingrained, memorized. Like
Yeah.
and I just can't even imagine like I spent a long time in Grand Rapids just not knowing where the heck I was, like
Yep.
there's something about the way you design a city intentionally that
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. I think that is all we have on this problem. Folks, if you have some ideas, please let us know. This is, we're not motivated, but we're curious. Yeah. All right. Thank you for joining us.